Chapter 16. Jake followed the women out, stopping briefly to pull Quinn aside. "Do me a favor, find out who's going on this raid tomorrow and ask them to look for asthma inhalers at the drugstore." "Mackenzie?" "Yeah, she has backups, but—" "I'll make it happen," Quinn said in a low voice. When Jake emerged onto the sidewalk, the four friends had linked arms and were marching up the middle of Main Street, heading for the bar attached to the whiskey distillery. God, they'd always been a force to be reckoned with when they were all together. Jake grinned wryly to himself. He'd spent his whole life on the outside, looking in at the fierce bond they shared. Mackenzie glanced back over her shoulder, looking for him, and he quickened his step. Inside the strumpet, Maggie, the platinum blonde who'd managed the bar for the last decade, was wiping down the counter. "Not at the town meeting, Mags?" Jake asked, sliding onto a bar stool as the girls headed for the bathroom and Dex came to sit at his feet. "Townsend can kiss my ass," Maggie said. "Good to know that the world can go to hell, but you'll still be behind the bar." "Where else would I be? I live up top. Donnie's out back cleaning glasses." She motioned to her 19-year-old son. "Rather be here than put to work out there, running Townsend's little empire. Now, what can I get you?" "Whiskey, straight up." "No can do. A rep from the distillery has requisitioned all the whiskey, thinks we'll need it to trade with." "A rep? I thought old man Harvey was in charge of the distillery." "He's just the manager. Remember James O'Connor? I think he was a couple of years above you at school. He works for the corporation who owns the distillery and was doing a site inspection when this all went down." Maggie poured him a beer. "He's not a bad kid, and to be honest, he's probably got the right idea. But half the locals want his head on a stick. This town survives on whiskey, and folks are mighty pissed they can't get it." Out of habit, Jake reached for his wallet and pulled out some bills, pausing as Maggie raised her eyebrows. "Pretty sure that's just useless paper now." Maggie laughed. "It's on the house. It's all on the house until we run dry, or Townsend takes it over. Put away your money. It's no good here." "Darling Maggie, did I just hear you say everything's on the house?" cried Kat, strutting behind the bar and flinging her arms around Maggie. "Get on with you, girl." She laughed, slapping a dishcloth against Kat's ass as Kat bent over in front of the wine fridge and pulled out 2 bottles of white wine. "Ladies, are we good with white?" "Better grab a red, too," called Chloe, settling at a high-top table. Grabbing his beer, Jake joined his sister and pulled out a stool for Mackenzie. He caught the look Chloe flashed between them and didn't give a damn, instead pulling Mackenzie's stool closer to his own. Chloe's reaction was forgotten when Mackenzie looked up at him from beneath her thick lashes, a secret smile dancing on those tempting lips of hers. It was killing him not to claim her, not to tell the whole damn world they were together, that she was his, but she'd made him promise they'd keep it between themselves. He'd agreed, for now. He understood her recalcitrance wasn't just in telling Chloe, but the fact she didn't trust in what was between them, that it was real. But she would. "Isn't it funny how 8 glasses of water in a day seems impossible, but I can do 8 glasses of wine over a bowl of stale peanuts?" Kat dumped glasses and wine bottles on the table, upsetting said bowl of nuts. "Are we going to talk about what just happened at the meeting?" Rachel asked. "Nope. We're getting drunk." Kat opened a bottle and poured generously. "It sucks, and we will talk about it," Chloe said, putting her hand on Rachel's arm. "But not right now. It's been forever since we were all here together, and I just want to forget everything. Forget that my jerk of a husband didn't come home when I asked, and pretend the world hasn't fallen to shit and he's on his way back now." "Sounds good to me. My mom is also on her way back from that retreat, and is healthy and ready to take Townsend down a peg or 3. Rachel's voice was only slightly wobbly. They clinked glasses as townspeople began filtering into the bar, the meeting obviously over. "Rachel Davenport, you're a bitch just like your mother," sneered a voice from behind them. Rachel spun around and Jake got to his feet, deliberately placing his beer on the table before turning. "Vivian Oxley," he drawled, "I don't remember inviting you to join us." "I wouldn't join you if you paid me," she spat. "I just wanted to let Rachel know that she's not so high and mighty now that her mother's not here, and she better learn her place." Learn my place? Rachel laughed, high and brittle. Vivian, you're Townsend's secretary. Where exactly do you think that places you? On the side of power, that's where. Just fuck off, Viv. You still haven't gotten over the fact that Rach beat you out for a spot on the marching band in high school, which is kind of sad. Mackenzie gave a small shrug of her shoulders and took another sip of wine. What exactly made you think you'd be welcome back in Sanford, Mackenzie Lyons? Your father's a deadbeat piece of trash and you're no better. Vivian scorned. Mackenzie's knuckles went white holding her wine glass, and Jake's blood pressure spiked. He'd never in his life been tempted to harm a woman, but this small-town bitch was pushing his limits. Mackenzie pushed herself away from the table and stood before Vivian, head held high. Vivian, you are a disappointment to the sisterhood. Oh, that's right. You four are some kind of girl squad. You know what? We are. And to be a part of our girl gang, you need to be fluent in smart-ass, sarcasm, and adult language. In addition, questionable morals and nudity may be required, all of which I don't think you're capable of. So, I'll say it again. Fuck off. Jesus, and now he had a hard-on. Jake surreptitiously adjusted himself as Vivian flounced away. Sassy Mackenzie was a major turn-on. The color was high on her cheeks and her chest heaved. Was he imagining he could see the outline of her nipples? He took a long swallow of his drink, attempting to get himself under control. Oh, Mac, it's so good to have you back. Chloe sighed, slinging her arm over Mackenzie's shoulder. Look, I'm a nice girl, so if I'm a bitch to you, you need to ask yourself why, Mackenzie said. Jake grinned and settled in for the evening. Maggie was calling last drinks, and Jake was relieved. The girls had gone through several bottles of wine before starting on shots of peach schnapps, and it was only going downhill from there. Can you believe James had the nerve to come back to town and take away all our whiskey? Rachel slurred. Screw the whiskey. I can't believe he's back. Have you seen him yet? Mackenzie asked. Because when I see him, I'm totally slapping that pretty face of his. You're not slapping anyone. Jake chuckled, removing the empty shot glass from her lax fingers. So this James O'Connor from the distillery is the same James who... Don't say it. Mackenzie placed a finger over his lips. You'll just hurt Rachel's feelings if you mention how he stomped all over her heart. Gee, thanks, Mac, Rachel said dryly. But Jake had lost all interest in the conversation. Mackenzie's finger stayed pressed against his lips, and God himself couldn't have stopped him from opening his mouth and sucking it inside. Wide-eyed, Mackenzie almost slipped from her stool, popping her finger free in order to rebalance herself. When her gaze flashed back to his, he licked his lips. Come on, ladies, time for bed, sang Chloe. Let's have a sleepover at my house. I'm assuming I'm not invited to this slumber party, Jake said. Absolutely no little brothers allowed. Kat skipped toward the exit. Good night, darling Maggie. The little brother comment was irritating, but Mackenzie appeared not to have registered it. She was still fixated on his lips, shaking herself when they twitched in amusement. Reaching for her backpack, she stumbled and swore. I forgot what a dirty mouth you have on you, he murmured against her ear before picking up both his own backpack and hers. You don't know the half of it, Jake Brent, she purred, wiggling her eyebrows up and down mischievously. Come on, then. I'll walk you all home. He sighed with feigned annoyance. Chloe's house wasn't a long walk, but Jake had a new appreciation for mothers with toddlers as he shepherded them home. Kat, what are you doing? He huffed as she scampered into someone's front garden. Maureen Park is a judgmental old bag, and she doesn't deserve to have this adorable gnome in her garden. He wants to come home with me. Put the gnome back, Kat. No. Kat. No! And she ran off down the sidewalk, gnome in one hand and high heels dangling from their straps in the other. Rachel and Chloe took off after her, disappearing through Chloe's front door half a block down. Mackenzie sidled under his arm as they kept walking, Jake purposefully shortening his strides to match hers. He didn't love the idea of leaving Mackenzie at Chloe's and going back to his own house alone, but he also didn't want to fight those three banshees for custody of her. He sighed. Sharing the love of his life with the rest of the world sucked balls.